May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. There are a couple of people in church right now that know exactly what I'm about to do. Oh, you'll hear about their initials later on. But the initials are Deb Sorensen and Carolyn Kendrick. Are you ready? Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. What do you think? If you didn't like it, blame them. If you did like it, give them the credit. Because after the last performance of the Aurora Singers back in May, Debbie and Carolyn came up to me afterwards and said, you know, if you would do some of that song and dance thing during one of the sermons, that might increase Sunday attendance. Right? And I'm giving you credit. And I was thinking, when I'm singing with the Aurora Singers, I'm glad to have the attention focused on me, because that's what entertainers do. They want people to pay attention to whoever's up in front. They don't want them off dreaming somewhere, thinking weird thoughts and such. And as I'm getting older in life, I'm finding my list of things that I want to be sure to say before I die is getting shorter and shorter, and this was one of them that was on that list. So when Kate asked if I would preach on Father's Day, she said, I think it might be nice to have a father preach on Father's Day. Is that all right, Father? And I said, I think that'd be swell. And then we started exchanging emails back and forth, and she would sign hers, Father Kate, and I would sign mine, Mother Doug. And it felt weird for a while, and a little bit uncomfortable, but not too odd, considering some of the things that happen around this church. But then I was thinking, it's those things that are drawing attention to me. And it's not something that a preacher normally draws attention to Jesus. Or if attention is drawn to them, and I do that, I don't mind admitting that. But once the attention is drawn to that person, then the attention gets channeled over on Jesus, because we really don't matter. Jesus does. And whatever happens that help people in that faith journey come towards that connection with Jesus Christ, that's what we're aiming for. So you can forget, you won't see that here ever again unless I lose a bet. We did have a bet once in my previous church where I had a full beard at the time. I looked a little bit like Drew. Actually, I had hair like Drew too. And I said, if the stewardship numbers come up high enough, I will shave my beard. And I was working with an assistant named Diana Peters, and she said, I will shave my legs. So for a purpose, sometimes it works. But I started thinking about clergy I admired, people that I admired, and I think this kind of goes along a little bit with Father's Day. What is it that I find about them to admire? And I've got a bunch of them that I wanted to tell you about. But one of the things that they have in common is they've got a really good sense of self-identity. They know who they are, and they're not bashful about it. And it's a warts and all kind of thing. They know who they are, the good points and the bad points that they've got in their life. It's real and they know it. And they don't take themselves too seriously. But the relationships with other people, the faith journeys that other people have, they take those very seriously indeed. And I was thinking probably the earliest of the clergy I admired, Pope John the 23rd. Does anybody here remember John the 23rd? Because you are older than 70 if you do. He was He died in 1963, so this was 60 years ago, 61 years ago. And he was one of these sweet Italian popes. He wasn't expected to live long. He was what they called an interim pope, and then he managed to live a long time, was the one that instituted Vatican II, some of the reforms in the Roman Catholic Church back then. And they didn't think that he would really amount to anything. But the story that I like best about John, he was a short Italian fellow with kind of a pot belly. You'll see this theme repeating itself. Short little clergy person with a pot belly. And every now and then he would greet people who were coming to go through the Vatican, the tourist groups. And he would have some time. It would be a spontaneous thing whenever he had time, and it worked out with whatever tours they were doing. He would meet with a group of people going through the Vatican just to get to know them a little bit and let them get to know him. And one of those ugly Americans was on this tour, and as he was introduced to the Pope, he stood up just a little bit taller than he needed to, and he said, "I'm a Baptist." And Pope John the 23rd smiled at him and said, "And I'm John." And I thought, God, I love that. Does anybody remember Michael Ramsey? He was the 100th Archbishop of Canterbury. Also kind of a short, pot-bellied clergy person. Maybe this is why I went into the ministry. It's my body image, it'll fit. Michael, he died in 1988, and he was also short. He had really, really bushy white eyebrows, and you could hardly see his eyes for the eyebrows over them. When he retired as Archbishop of Canterbury, he would spend one term each year at Nashotah House, the seminary that I went to, and we overlapped for 1 year, my first year of seminary and his last year there. And just imagine a group of seminary students being able to spend time talking with the Archbishop of Canterbury. But Michael, at one commencement time, Jim, I'm going to use you as my example because you insulted me out in front of the church. But in a loving way. So Michael, during this commencement, came up to one of my brother clergy. Some of you may know him, Ralph Walker, rest his soul, recently the rector over at St. Michael and All Angels on South University. And he came up to that priest and said, "You have 3 buttons on your vest." They were pink and red buttons on his black vest. And he said, "I'm sure they have some significance." And Ralph said, "Well, surely, Your Grace, you realize that these 3 buttons here signify that I'm on the executive board of the trustees of Nashotah House." And Michael said, "I think they'd look better on your fly." And I said, yes, these are the clergy who have survived the church and lived to tell about it. And then I was thinking about Kate. I was thinking about the times that she talks about the transformative power of Jesus Christ, and she never does it to point to herself, but she's always there to say, this is something of grace that's for all of us, all of the people of God. This transformative power of Christ that's waiting for you. And that's one of the things I love about her. The other is that she lets me do this from time to time. And then I was thinking about Frank. And the people back on the soundboards and everything, we have this deal where I say to them after the service, "What note didn't Frank play today?" And on the soundboard they will say, "He got all of them." And I was thinking, when Frank is by the organ there and he's playing those glorious notes and all of them, and when he's got the choir singing up there, and when he's got sometimes at the end of a song, at the end of one of his beautiful, beautiful improvisations, there'll be just that one sad, quiet note that Frank is playing. And he's never doing this to draw attention to himself. And people would say what a wonderful organist he is, and he knows that. But in all of these ways, he's doing it to point people towards an encounter with the living God. That's why he does what he does. And whether it's Kate or me or Frank or any of the other folks in our lives, if we are helping people encounter Jesus and have a deeper relationship with Jesus, that's what it's all about. And it's this Jesus that takes his robe off and wraps a towel around his waist and washes people's feet and says, do you see what I've done for you? That's what you're supposed to do for each other. Who says, this is my body, this is my blood. I want you to eat this flesh and drink this blood. And in receiving me into your life, you'll be given the grace to be able to do what I'm asking you to do in your life. So the vaudeville thing, you won't see again here. You will see it when the Aurora Singers come back in October. But that life with Jesus Christ, that life with Jesus Christ. Amen.